Fellas, there are a lot of top contenders right now in the UFC, so this is every UFC contender explained. Michael Morales. The two ways to describe Michael Morales is big and bonk. As for the big, I mean, he's ginormous for the division. He's one of the biggest welterweights in the UFC. I mean, this was him stood next to his last opponent, Sean Brady, as he absolutely towers over him. And as for bonk, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you want to throw another word in there for Morales, you can also maybe add bye. Nassourdine Imavov. I think the best way to describe Imavov is kind of like an Uber driver. He delivers every time, but nobody really cares. Since he's lost to Sean Strickland, he's gone to a decision with Roman Dolidze, beat Cannonier, beat Allen, beat Adesanya, beat Borralho, and still doesn't really get the recognition. I mean, more people are talking about Chimaev, DDP, hell, even Bo Nickal's getting more talk than Imavov. Shavkat Rakhmonov. Shavkat's going to be one of these guys where we sat there with our grandkids around a fire, talking about what could have been with the boogeyman of Shavkat Rakhmonov. He's genuinely one of the biggest what-ifs in the UFC, with a record of 19-0, with 18 finishes. Even the UFC title fight between Makhachev and Garry coming up, Ian Garry's only loss, he's the boogeyman in Shavkat Rakhmonov. But because of his injuries, he's been out for a long time, and nobody knows if we're ever going to see Shavkat again, making him one of the biggest what-ifs in UFC history. And a good story for your grandkids. Arman Tsarukyan. Kind of like how a rich kid is for golf, it's kind of like Arman Tsarukyan but in the octagon. He's probably more famous for streaming than he is actually for fighting. I mean, his lifestyle is eat copious amounts of food, stream, wrestle, repeat. You can also add beat a top contender once a year, call for a title shot, don't get the title shot, and then repeat. Josh Hocket. Josh Hocket is the statement, but it's free speech personified. The way that the world views America as elite at everything they do, but also loud and doesn't really make much sense, is kind of like how you can describe Josh Hocket. Nobody knew who this guy was, unless you're an NFL fan. And in 2026, he's had the greatest heavyweight fight of all time. He's fought on the White House card, and he's had beef with Michelle Obama. He's also managed to get number 5 in the heavyweight rankings within less than a year. Carlos Prates. Prates is everything you don't expect from a fighter. Smoking, drinking, the guy would give any Dagestan training camp a heart attack. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Better Call Saul, where you've got Lalo Salamanca, who seems to sleep 4 hours a day and smoke, but seems to be a cold-blooded killer. That is Carlos Prates. Drink by day, knock people out by night, and repeat. I mean, he's literally knocked everyone out in his last couple of fights apart from Ian Garry. Ian Garry swears he's the best thing since sliced bread. He's not likable, he's not exciting, he's not pretty, but he is damn good. I mean, he's the only guy in the UFC to ever beat Carlos Prates. He's the only guy in the UFC to ever go to a decision with the boogeyman in Shavkat Rakhmonov, and he's also the only guy to make me want to root for Bilal Muhammad. However, Ian Garry, I think, is an MMA minimalist. For example, if this is the threshold to win a fight, Ian Garry will only ever kind of go above that a little bit. He'll never have dominant performances, he'll never absolutely mollywop people, and he'll always leave people questioning if he's really that good, but he does beat people, and he does it just about. Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley's the UFC star boy, or maybe the UFC's manufactured star boy. I mean, ever since that Snoop Dogg Contender Series moment, Dana White's had his eyes pounced on Sean O'Malley since day one. I mean, he's been fed cans in his early UFC career, even lost to Marlon Vera, knocked a couple of cans out, and managed to get a huge fight with Peter Yan after knocking a couple of cans out. He then robs Peter Yan in a fight that nobody thought he won, proceeded to get 2 pretty simple title wins, then lose to Merab, then get an immediate rematch, lose to Merab again, and since then he's got a dodgy win of a Song Yadong, and he knocked out Arman Tsarukyan. Movsar Evloev. Have you ever heard the statement, you won't need a judge for this one? Well, Movsar Evloev kind of goes against that. In fact, he probably does a better job employing judges than most guys that work in the UFC. I mean, every single one of this guy's UFC wins is always by decision. He's a decisionator. He has got wins over top contenders. He's beat number 4 ranked Aljamain Sterling, number 3 ranked Lerone Murphy, number 2 ranked Diego Lopes, number 5 ranked Donald Allen, and he's 20-0 undefeated. But because outside of the octagon, he doesn't do much media, he doesn't really resonate with the fans, he hasn't really got a singular fan base, he's always had decisions and he hasn't really got the most fan-friendly style. He never really gets the title shot. We're probably more likely to see Volkanovski versus Lopes 3 than we are Movsar Evloev getting a title shot in the UFC. Stirro Gone. Fouls, 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 even more fouls, foul it till you make it. Whether it's back of the head shots, eye pokes, back of the head shots, groin shots, back of the head shots, even more back of the head shots, he's gonna foul. And when confronted about it, Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed Ankalaev is what I like to call a grey area fighter. He talks too much trash to be a nice guy, but he doesn't commit enough to be a bad guy. He's not fun enough to be classed as exciting, but he's not dull enough to be classed as boring. He's not Western enough for most fans, but he's not daggy enough for the daggy glazers. He's not skilled enough to be seen as incredible, but he's good enough to be seen as talented. He's kind of like this grey area fighter. He's got everything to become a top contender, but he can never really get over that next hurdle of being a big star in the UFC or getting big opportunities. Charles Oliveira. Watching Charles Oliveira is like constantly watching your favourite team in the World Cup final. I mean, you've got to be on the edge of your seat. One minute he'll be getting dropped and nearly finished, and then out of nowhere he'll pull off a finish. Next minute he's having a great start to the round, and then he'll be knocked out cold. I mean, he holds the record for the most finishes and most submission wins in the UFC, so on paper, he's the most dangerous fighter in the UFC, but it's always a bit chaotic when you're watching Oliveira fight. Gene Silva. Gene Silva is an absolute weirdo. 100 years ago, this kid would have been locked in a mental asylum. I mean, this guy, he's definitely off his head. He's not a normal human being. I mean, his idea of a mental asylum nowadays is an octagon. And it's kind of like when you give a mental person weapons, that's how I imagine Gene Silva. He should not be licensed to punch people in the face and be good at it because he's one of the most dangerous fighters in the UFC. A lunatic like that shouldn't be able to throw hands as good as he does. Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling's like if you combine a human and a backpack. I mean, there's no exaggeration with this. His entire style is being a human backpack. Back to school day for Aljamain Sterling. He will hang on your back. That is his game plan. Hang on your back, get a finish. No exaggeration. He's a human backpack. I also think Sterling suffers from a bit of a right message, wrong messenger. For example, he always talks against fighter pay, against the UFC, potentially starting a union, but then he's also saying this from somebody with a 54% decision rate. Not the most fan-friendly style. Also, his most viral fight was him getting knocked out by Sean O'Malley, so right message, but wrong guy to say it. Alexander Volkov. Remember what I said at the beginning about Nassourdine Imavov delivering but nobody cares? That kind of applies to Volkov too. Alexander Volkov, I mean, he's got wins over number 5 ranked Cortez Acosta, at the time number 7 ranked Jolton Almeida, number 3 ranked Sergei Pavlovich, and he's won 6 of his last 7 fights in the UFC, and his only loss in that was a robbery to Stirro Gone that everybody thought Volkov won. But when you're in a division full of Tom Aspinall, Sergei Pavlovich, Josh Hocket, and Alex Pereira, there's just nothing that Volkov really brings. He hasn't got this big personality. He hasn't got this super flashy style. He's not got this super dominant style. He just kind of sits there as a top contender and doesn't really do anything for the fans. Sergei Pavlovich. Sergei Pavlovich is the human equivalent of Bigfoot. Remember when we were talking about Shavkat in the campfires? The next topic would be Sergei Pavlovich. I mean, this guy's absolutely ginormous, a big Russian knockout artist. When Sergei Pavlovich went on his 6-fight first-round KO streak leading up to 2023, people thought this guy was going to be the next big thing. He's going to beat John Jones. He's MMA's Mike Tyson. He's going to carry NATO on his back. That was until Tom Aspinall knocked him out and all that talk kind of went away. Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar Nurmagomedov's the only fighter where your heart rate likely won't change at all during watching a fight. I mean, you can kind of predict an Umar Nurmagomedov fight pretty easily. He's not as talented as Islam Makhachev. He's not as dominant as his brother Khabib. He kind of just exists as a Nurmagomedov Dagestani. You could take anybody in the rankings outside of the top 2 guys, say Umar by decision, and it's likely correct. He's just got a super predictable style, but he talks, just like Ian Garry, like he's the best thing since sliced bread. Manel Kape. Manel Bap. Yeah, Manel Kape has serious guy now. I think the best way to describe Manel Kape is he's a bit of a chihuahua. He definitely barks. He barks more than anybody. He doesn't care how big you are, what division you're in. He will bark at you. But he also bites too, and he bites by sending people unconscious. Because this guy's genuinely one of the most powerful guys we've ever seen in the flyweight division. Paulo Costa. Have you ever seen those posts on social media where it's like, it's hard to explain to an MMA fan that the kid on the left would defeat the guy on the right? Well, Costa kind of goes against that because he's both. His physique is one of the best physiques I've ever seen in UFC history. He's jacked out of his mind, bodybuilder-esque physique made by the secret juice, but he absolutely mollywhops people in Octagon too. He's like if you gave a bodybuilder the ability to fight. Larry Wheels, he's taking everything you work for. Diego Lopes. Diego Lopes has everything to be number 1, but he just can't. He's Mexican, he's liked by Dana White, he was given an opportunity on UFC 300, he was given an opportunity on the UFC Sapphire, he was given an opportunity on the White House card, he was even given 2 title shots that he didn't deserve, and he lost both of them. Very good fighter, very fun fighter, but I think the UFC almost want to push him too much to the point where his skills doesn't really align with the hype that he's got. Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen, this is a perfect image of the stock of Brendan Allen. Like, he's a very streaky fighter. He'll win, then lose a few, then win a few, then lose a few. He's also a bit of an idiot, is Brendan Allen. For example, he'll decide to strike and stand and trade with the one guy who's known for having bad takedown defense, but then he'll put himself in a bad position against one of the best grapplers in the division, in Fluffy Hernandez. Yeah, a bit of an idiot is Brendan Allen. Good enough against guys that are better than him, bad enough against guys that he should be dominating. Cory Sandhagen. Cory Sandhagen is like if you took Sean O'Malley and made him more well-rounded, more technical, but less dangerous and more normal looking. That's Cory Sandhagen. I also think Cory Sandhagen struggles a bit because he's not good enough to be a champion, but he's too good for everybody else. He's like a gatekeeper for the top 3. For example, he's lost to Merab, He's lost to Peter Yan, he's lost to Umar Nurmagomedov, but he's beat pretty much everybody else they put in front of him. Caio Borralho. Caio Borralho is what I describe as the worst of a great bunch. He's part of the Fighting Nerds crew, where you've got Carlos Prates, a dangerous KO artist, Mauricio Hufe, a dangerous KO artist, Gene Silva, a lunatic KO artist, and Caio Borralho's kind of just, he kind of just exists. There's nothing that Caio Borralho really brings to the Fighting Nerds. I mean, he's come off a decision loss over Nassourdine Imavov a few fights ago, and even in his most recent fight, he had a pretty uneventful decision win over Randy Derrida. He's kind of just a gatekeeper for the top 5 of the middleweight division. However, that is every UFC top contender explained. I might have missed a few like DDP maybe, Khamzat Chimaev and Paddy Pimblett, but I think a lot of the top stars everybody knows anyway. And I also just want to lob everyone who's in the top 3 as a contender. I want top contenders to be guys who could realistically be getting a title shot soon. Let me know your thoughts on this video. If it's accurate, thank you for watching.